All right, everybody, you should be in the smooth notes packet. Remember, when you are flex, the expectation is you watch the video lesson and still do things, right? Even though we're not in the classroom, you still have an expectation of things to get done. So we are on our new unit of congruent figures, and then we're doing the first section of notes, okay? So our first lesson is on congruent figures, and you guys should kind of have an idea of this already, because we've talked about congruent things before. But remember, congruent figures have the same shape and size. If you have congruent figures, those figures will have corresponding angles and sides that are equal. If the angles are congruent, then they have the same measure. And if your sides are congruent, then they have the same length. We use this weird equal symbol for congruent. It's called a congruent symbol, but it's an equal sign with a little squiggle on top. We mark congruent angles, we mark congruent sides with a tick mark, and you guys have seen that before. And we mark congruent angles with a arc mark. I know I hit you with a lot of vocab right there, but I'll let you guys take a minute to copy that down. Oops. And then we will move on. So today there's going to be just kind of like a lot of matching, all right? So you're looking for things that have the same markings on them, and they go together. So on these first two examples, it says, name the corresponding angles and sides of the congruent figures. Then write a congruent statement. So again, we're just matching. Don't overcomplicate it, okay? You're just looking for things that have matching markings. So if I start with angle B here, do you guys see how it has one marking? So angle B matches or is congruent to angle E on the other triangle. Now I'm going to find my two arcs. Well, angle A has two arcs, and then on my other triangle, angle D does. They go together. And then we'll do our last one here of angle C has 1, 2, 3 arc marks. So what matches that would be angle F. You guys see how all those match together? So they're the same measure, because our picture is telling us that. Now we're going to do the same thing with our sides, okay? So I'm going to clean this up. Oops. Okay, so I'm going to clean that up. All right, here we go. So I'm going to start with my one tick mark. So my one tick mark is side AB. So we'd say AB is congruent. Now look at your other one. What has one tick mark? EB. Remember, sides have two letters when you name them. Okay, now let's go to two tick marks. So that would be AC is congruent to FD. And then our last one here has three tick marks, and that's CB. It's congruent to EF. All right, so we just listed all of our matching angles and sides. And now that we've done that, we can write a congruent statement, which is kind of like our key for telling us what goes with what. So since these are triangles, we can use the triangle symbol. So say triangle, and now you can pick any order. I'll just start with C. So I'm going to do CBA. The triangle CBA is congruent. Now we have to match. Now what matched C on my other triangle? Well, F did. So that has to come first. And then I went to B. What matches B? E does. And then hopefully our A and D match up, which they do. So the picture sometimes can tell you if figures are congruent, like how we have all those markings here. Or if they give you this congruent statement, this tells you too, the order, right? So you guys see how C is the first letter, so it's equal to angle F. So that's why we have this guy here. And then we had B and E. Do you guys see how now I had B and E here? They correspond to each other. And same thing with A and D. A matches D. Or you can use two letters. I know I'm kind of getting in depth here, but that's okay. CB is the first two, matches FE. Now, if I look at our top thing here, oh, here's CB, and there's EF. They match. Does that make sense? We'll try another one. All right. Here we go. Not angle A. Where am I coming from? All right. So again, we're just matching. If I start with U, has one art mark, is congruent. What has one art mark? Z. And I go to my next one. I have two archy marks on T. What has two archy marks on this one? X. Which must make angle S, which is a right angle, congruent to my other right angle, which is Y. Now I'll do the sides, and we know that we need two letters when we name a side. So it doesn't matter where you start. I'm just going to go in order. So I have one tick mark. So that's ST is congruent. Now where's my one tick mark here? YX. Okay, now I'm going to go to my twos. My two would be US is congruent. What's my two over here? ZY. Make sure you put that segment bar on top. And then our last one, UT matches ZX. Perfect. And now again, we can write our congruent statement. So we're going to have triangle. Doesn't matter where you start. Let's start with the right angle. So I'm going to do SUT. Now we just have to match it. What matches S on my other triangle? Well, Y does. What matches U? Z. And what matches T would be X. So there we go. So again, you're just looking at your picture or looking at your code here to tell you what matches what. So now on this one, we have a picture, but it's kind of hard to tell what goes with what because there's no markings. So that's why they give us our congruent statement. So you can either use the picture if it helps you to visualize, or you can use the congruent statement to name everything. So if we list our congruent angles, we just have to match our letters. So angle A is our first letter. What's our first letter on our other polygon? F. So they go together. Now we just go in order. B is my second letter. What matches B? G. And we just keep going. C is our third letter. What matches that? H. And we're just going to keep going down the list. Angle D matches angle I. And then our last one here, E, is congruent to angle J. Now we could look at our picture now. I mean, if that helps. Does A look like it's in the same spot as F? It sure does. Does B match G? Yeah, you could have done this too, but sometimes it's hard to tell. So that congruent statement really is helpful to tell you what goes with what. Okay? So now let's do our sides. So I'm just going to use our little code because it's kind of easier for me, I think. So I'm going to do the first two letters. So AB is congruent to now the first two letters of that one, FG. I'm going to run out of room. Oofed. Okay. Now I'm going to pick the next two letters. BC, just keep going in order, matches GH. Just got to pick the right letter of the order, or letters in the right order. Okay, now we're going to do CD is congruent to HI. Okay, see what's going on here? And then we're going to have DE is congruent to IJ. That should be an I. Make that an I, you guys. IJ. And then our last one, it gets kind of weird. We're going to take AE. AE is congruent to the first and last of this one, FJ. Okay? So again, you could have went through and looked at your picture like, oh, here's AB. What's in the same spot over here? FG. And that's what we put on this one here. So you could use your picture, but sometimes it's just as nice to look at the code. All right. Now the last thing you're going to be asked to do today, after you're done matching all your parts that are the same, is you have to determine if figures are congruent. We need to have the same angles and the same sides, okay? So that's what I like to do. I like to make a little column for angles, and then I like to make a little column for sides. Now we just check. We just go through. Does angle A have a match? Has one arc mark, goes with D. B matches, excuse me, E. And C matches F. So we can put a check mark. All of our angles have a buddy. Excuse me, you guys. I got something went down the wrong pipe there. All right, now we're going to check our sides. AB matches ED. AC matches FD. And CB matches EF. So all of our sides have a buddy. So if both of those things are true, we can say, yes, they're congruent because of congruent sides and angles. But I want to see this part, you guys, on your paper, okay? So that's why I know how you check it. You check your angles and your sides. All right, let's try the next one. Again, put angles, sides. This is how you can justify your work. So if I check my angles, do you see how all of our angles have a buddy? They're all the same. They all have one archy mark. So that's a check. Now let's look at our sides. Are they the same? Well, this side's 8, and that's 5. Are they the same length? No, they're not the same size. So that doesn't work. So these would be not congruent. Different side lengths. And maybe you want to write that so you know. Different side lengths. Oops, lengths. Did you guys get all that? Okay, now let's try this one. Again, same old story. We're going to check our angles and our sides. So if we look at our angles, I have a right angle and a right angle. One arc mark, two archy marks, two archy marks. So our angles do check out. Now let's check our sides. 9 goes with 9. 40 matches 40. 44 goes with 44. So we would say, yep, this is a good example. Yes, they're congruent. You say congruent sides and angles. Now our last one here is trying to trick us. Do you guys see how they rotated this guy over here? That's okay. We'll learn more about that next week. But again, it's the same process. We gotta check and see if each of our angles have a buddy. This guy matches this one. This guy matches this one. You guys see that? They all have a pair. It just rotated. So our angles work out. And then our sides, actually, you guys see how they're all the exact same size? They're all just one tick mark. We'll learn about this later in the year too. That's called a rhombus. So our sides do work out. So this would be another good example of congruent figures. So you're going to say yes, congruent sides and angles. Now our last one here is we have to decide out of A, B, or C which congruent statements. Remember, this is our key. These are little keys telling us what matches what. So we have to kind of pair it up to make sure it matches our pictures. So if we look here, do you see how these are all JKL, JKL? So we just have to match that one. So if we have JKL, now let's just play the matching game. So if I look here, J has 2 tick marks. Over here, which one has 2 tick marks? N. So I know N has to come first. So if I look over here, that already eliminates A because it has M first. So we got rid of that one. All right, now let's do the next one. K has 1 archy mark. What has 1 archy mark over here? Oops. M does. So now we already can eliminate C because it says P should come next. So that doesn't work. And just to make sure, we'll just double check. L has 3 archy marks, and so does P. So this indeed is the correct answer. Okay. Please show Mrs. Ahrens or Mrs. Kwame, depending on what hour you have, your notes filled out, so they'll give you the worksheet to work on. Hold on to it, and we will go over it on Monday. All right, you guys have a good weekend. Be safe, be good, make good choices, wear your seatbelt, and I'll see you soon. Goodbye.